to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me on the show today, Debbie G and Neo Positivity. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. Now, I have to admit, there's a little bit of dishonesty in advertising in that particular intro because it's a little bit more than Debbie G and Neo today. It's like twice that number, if you can actually get my drift, because, well, we got two really cool things going on today. First one is we are actually welcoming a new member of the team here, Victoria Reynolds, who's also a major player here in this group here that we're a part of, is joining us on Friday. So first thing I got to do is bring her in and say, hello, Victoria, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
Hi, Walt. Thank you for inviting me to be here.
Glad to have you. And we also have a listener who is joining us. Now, this is somebody who has written in quite a bit, and she has sent lots of emails, lots of supportive stuff, and now she's got a cool story to tell. So we're starting off with her. This is Deborah. And Deborah, it's like I was telling you before we got started, I'm loving actually talking with the listener because I don't normally get to do that. I mean, you guys hear me. I just don't get to see and interact with you. So this is special for me. Thank you very much for coming on the show today.
Well, you sure read a lot of my words, haven't you?
I certainly have. And you're quite wordy and in a good way, too.
It's lovely to be here. What fun.
But we're going to go with you first because you have an interesting story to tell. So I'm just going to turn it over to you. I'm not even going to do an intro on it. I'll let you just bring it on. Tell us the way you want to tell it.
Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about my Camino story?
The Camino story, yes.
Okay. I don't know if you had a chance to listen at all, but basically the two loves of my life are the Camino de Santiago, the pilgrimage route in northern Spain. I don't know if you guys all know that one.
I'm not familiar with it myself.
Okay. So it's a pilgrimage route in northern Spain. There are a lot of them. I don't want to be too long-winded about this, so cut me off if I get too verbose. You know that I will. I had been leading groups on it for many years, and then finally got the chance to walk my own Camino in 2017. And this was all part of, I was already listening to your wonderful show. I'd been listening to lots of Pam Grout stuff, appreciation. I was just really feeling the vibe, really starting to, I hadn't come across Abraham or anyone by that stage. But anyway, so I was really happy to be walking the Camino with my husband of 19 years.
Very nice.
And we set off all full of the joys of spring and thinking it would be this beautiful walk across northern Spain. It's 800 kilometers. It's basically to Santiago de Compostela, which is supposedly the resting place of the Apostle St. James. So that's why the route is there. It follows the Milky Way. It was also a pagan route. Anyway, so we were going to be walking this route, having a splendid time in nature, meeting people along the way. And what happens on these Caminos are what's called a pilgrim's family is formed. So you meet people near to the beginning, and it's a very magical place to be. And everybody is giving of their best. You're all meant to be helping each other out. It's all in the spirit, obviously, of a pilgrimage. So it's very much my sort of place where you're allowed to be speaking with people. I love speaking with people. It's a very upbeat, beautiful sense of community that's formed. Anyway, so try to keep it as short as I can.
You're doing very well.
I'm trying. And so we set off and met these lovely other people. There were about 7 of us walking together. I had to go off to a work thing in Sarajevo for a few days. And I started to feel something very strange from my husband. He sort of wasn't answering my texts, and it was all got a little bit odd. And then when I came back, my friends, my Camino family said he's been acting very strange. We don't know what's going on. And basically he sort of, I think I said, well, what's happening? What is it? And he said, well, I'm not talking about it now. And he actually took off for 2 days. Yes, he took off for 2 days. And obviously I was worried. Finally, he contacted me and was in a very, very strange place. And so I said, well, this is really not really not on, 2 days and I don't know where you are. He said, that's it. Ya terminamos, his Argentinian chat. Ya está, ya terminamos, we're over, we're done. And
oh my God.
Yes. So, and knowing him, because his, obviously I bear him no ill will whatsoever now. It's, we're no longer together, bit of a spoiler alert there. But he just disappeared and I did not hear from him again. So yeah, so basically I had the choice of going home, which is sort of what I assumed I would do because I didn't want to be this wailing woman walking with my friends and bringing them down. And my like the main thing that was was such a beautiful moment that sort of set off in process of healing, and was that they said to me, "You're staying with us. We're going to look after you. You're not going home by yourself. We know what you're like. You'll think you shouldn't be impinging on us. You shouldn't." And they said, "We accept you unconditionally. We're going to take care of you. You do what you want." And so,
my goodness.
Yes. So I sort of cried for the next 7 days or so. But the Camino is such a place of healing. It was an absolute incredible experience. It was just so healing, and that's a very sort of basically to how now, having found, as Debbie well knows, the Taya practice, to me now the Taya practice and the Camino, they're sort of one and the same. I've very much found my way home, walked myself home, and walked home with the community of Taya through doing the boot camp, and that sense of community and oneness and connection and acceptance, all the things on the Camino, all they're two direct parallels, and they just tie beautifully together. And yes, Debbie, I've done my last modules on the boot camp, and it literally was like coming home to Santiago, and just loads of coincidences and serendipitous things have just come in with just total sense of trust and joy that I found through the Thai practice as I found on the Camino. And it's so.
Wow.
I managed to get it fairly short, didn't I, Walt?
I guess, yeah. Well, this is a strange question to ask because of what happened, but do you feel like you were guided to that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. 100%. Yes, definitely. I think I was guided to both to the Thai practice and both to the Camino. Very definitely, we all are. It's a soul calling. It's definitely the little breadcrumbs that are left when you look back that you found along the way, because I heard about the Camino many years ago and I was like, I am doing that. I knew I was going to do it. And it is to raise the collective vibration on the Camino. I heard a very interesting thing actually yesterday that I didn't know, that the ley lines that are part of the ley lines that follow I only heard about this yesterday, I'm not very sure. And they say it's actually the imprints of the, what do you call it, the chakras in the feet, that actually the imprint and the intention leaves an imprint actually in the soil, which form the ley lines, which I'd never heard that before, but it makes a lot of sense to me, because there is such a magic, and magic is real. I shan't be apologetic about that. There is a magic and such an energy on that Camino that heals and that inspires and it gives what you need. And as there's such an alchemy within the Thai practice as well, which calls you to it and gives you what you need and breaks you open. There's a beautiful Rumi quote actually, which applies to both, which is that I'm sure you will have heard it, we're all just walking each other home. And that is it, both on the Camino and the Thai practice.
Well, did I not just say that earlier?
You did. I mean, literally, we were on the phone. Debbie and I were on the phone about, 3 hours ago, and that is the exact phrase that she used for me, Deborah. Exact phrase.
It's called alignment, baby girl.
Yeah,
I just want to give a huge shout out, because your journey through Taya Boot Camp was, for me, I was just sitting there like I was being fed every time that you would. We're gonna have to mute because we've got a feedback.
Yeah, somewhere there's an echo. Somebody needs headphones.
Okay,
I'm muting.
Okay, so several things came up for me with when you were talking. One, I just want to say that your journey through Taya was like a remembrance for me in boot camp. We have very similar experiences, and I dug that. One of the things I want to touch on is community and how important community is. So I'm loving this story that you shared and about how people came together and held you through in that space and provided that space for you. I just left, 3 weeks of that experience and that environment. And there's something about the pure essence of us connecting as human beings on a human level, because we are human. We are here in this badass planet. Whoa. Jeez Louise, I'm like hardly anything in. All right. So I'm the blooper. Now, we are here though on this planet to be here for each other. And I'm excited about everything that you're bringing forward. I'm excited about what's coming forward for you. And I love that you chose Taya, because now you're connected with all of us. And that makes me really happy. But I also want to say a big thank you, because you always boost morale. You boost people up. You're the one person who gets online and sees a post and says, you know what, you're a rock star. And you tell people that. You show up. She does.
Oh, yeah.
When we are if we're really showing up for each other, we're showing up with a heart connection. We're showing up for real. And I know what that means to show up for real. There's no anything about it. You're showing up with your heart and with love. And how can I be of service? How can I be of service? And I'm going to challenge the entire listening audience today to figure out how you're going to go be of service for someone this weekend and not expect anything in return, not put an agenda to it, not judge it, not put something to it, but just be human. Just be what you are here to be without any of the whack stuff. Just be that for another person. A lot of people talking about stuff, but I want to see some action. And that's really what it comes down to.
Neo, I'm watching Neo right now. He's like flipping out.
I know.
He is having a complete fit over this.
Go, ready?
I'm in the background here trying to get us live on Facebook, but I finally just got it. So yeah. Debbie, I need you to put that challenge back out again, because that's the whole reason for me going live. Like, give us that challenge again, please.
All right. So the challenge we have in the challenge that I encourage everybody to embrace is being of service. The very thing that you seek is seeking you, but it means to show up as that and to be that. And it doesn't mean I'm smarter than or less than or anything. I'm talking about showing up straight up on the front lines as a co-creator, as a person on this planet, as a human being, and ask somebody, what can I do for you today? And the person on the receiving end, the challenge becomes receiving and knowing that you are worthy of receiving, just as we are giving. So the challenge is to show up for people in this world this weekend. See where you can be of service and not talk about it. Don't talk about it. I don't want to hear about it. Nobody wants to hear about it, because then you're just martyring yourself. So don't BS yourself. All right. Just do it. Just go do it. Just be that. And then come back and talk about the heart connections that you've made, not the actual thing you did. Because you're not hearing me talk about Creststone and saying, oh, I did this, and I did this. No, I'm going to tell you, I got down into the trenches with people, and we loved each other and helped each other through, like what Deborah has been through. When you're faced with adversity, when you're faced with things, the true appreciation of the human being comes when you can actually hold them. And that's all you're doing. That's all you're doing.
By the way, you're getting reaction in the live stream too. Louise is saying, I love this challenge. Thanks, Debbie. Joe Slicker putting his hands up. High fives. Julian, Joe, Donna. I mean, everybody's just jumping up here saying hello. So you're getting reaction there, girl. Well done. Really well done.
We love reaction, guys. Now that since you're reacting, then go ahead and start thinking about how it is that I can implement that reaction. It feels good in the moment. Now step into it and be a badass, please. Because you all are. See, that's another thing. Deb, you went through Taya boot camp. Yeah, you stepped into your power. You're like, oh man, it's such a trip when you step into your power and you know you're worthy and deserving. But when you do that, then it's time to show up to somebody else and say, dear God, you are beautiful. So I'll just start that right now. We'll just start off and go on a round robin.
You know what? I'm going to say right there, how could you not? And to people who haven't experienced this, they probably won't even know what I'm talking about. But once you feel that good within, you want everybody to feel like that.
That's true.
So you start doing things, but not everyone's so receptive to that. And then they start to, knock you down and less and less people are receptive to it. You got to stay up there. Don't reduce yourself to other people's freedom.
Hell no. People talk, dude. People let them talk smack. Actually, the fact of the matter is if you got somebody talking,
talk smack.
Well, hell yeah. Because if you got somebody talking, baby, it's because you're doing something right. Now, we're gonna just start right now with Deb. I want to just tell you that I see your light and your beauty. Look at her smile, everybody.
Oh God, it's huge.
Right. And her glow about who she is.
I'm actually more of an oral person. I hear more than I see. Not that I don't have eyesight, but my hearing is much better. And I was just hearing glow when she was talking. I was hearing glow. Yeah.
Hearing glow. Dad, how does that feel? We hear your glow.
Yeah, I love that. And it is as well, you having been through Taya boot camp, it is just, you can't stop it from shining. And it is just so glorious to see. And I'm seeing it now. I was just having a beautiful conversation with a woman who has just joined and is feeling exactly the same insecurities as I was just 12 weeks or so ago, and that same lack of worthiness and that same knowing that you're connected and knowing that you're light and knowing that you have that within you. But it's not a full-on knowing until you've actually been through it. It's sort of like a needle that I felt as if it was a needle that slowly tipped, and it got to like a tipping point, and then it goes from being a sort of knowing it to an absolutely trusting it to a full-on knowing it, and knowing that we're all just reflecting the same light. None of us, it's literally the same light that we're all reflecting, and that there is no all that ego stuff. There's nothing wrong with the ego. But to finally have come from that place of, and I have to thank you, Walt, for this, because you personally have been a big part of my, I hate to use the word journey, it's such a cliche, I can't think of another word. But you personally, Mr. Thiessen, or however you went to pronounce it, have been a big part of my experience, shall we say. And because I found LOA today, but I don't know how many years ago, maybe 5. I don't know how long it's been, 4 or 5. I lose track of time. And
I've been doing it almost 9 years. I lose track of time, so you're not alone in this. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, I can remember when I first started thinking, what a lovely, humble, genuine guy this is. Because you all, that's how. No, but you do. You feel that. Of course, you pick up. We all know when someone's authentic. And I love the way that you weren't pretending to have the answers. And like, he's a seeker like me. I'm going to listen with this guy, and then to see you.
Well, it was really easy because I didn't have the answers, so it was really straight.
But it was so lovely.
Can anybody raise their hands here if they got the answers? Because if that person's here, I'm fucking.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I just did it again. I'm gonna run. Oh my God. Okay, so did y'all just see what happened though?
I want to ask something though. Can I? I want to challenge Victoria. Welcome, Victoria.
Yes, Victoria's wondering what's going on. What have I gotten into here? Oh my God!
I want everybody, if you get a chance, to go around the room and answer this question that I just got based off of what everybody's glowing about. But as people, we get used to things. You're chewing on food, the flavor disappears. That car that you just got is amazing. till day 3 or 4. So when you're riding that wave, the question is, what happens on day 3 when it just doesn't feel as good on day 1? And there's no new wave to get on, and it's hard to get back on that one. And I like that question in particular because I have this mental exercise I do where I review a highlight, and I always tell people, if you got to go back to your high school graduation, go there. It could still feel like it's happening now. That's one thing you can do, is invoke those type of feelings again. You know, water the seeds and thoughts with some things, and y'all know. So, like I said, day 3. It's kind of.
So what do you think, Victoria?
Well, I go for a walk on the beach.
That's
my thing. I stick my feet in the water and just reconnect.
Nice.
I love that. Yeah, because that's important. It's that's how you stay connected, even after you've had that little fall off that Neo's talking about. Because I mean, we know what that's like, you know. But I agree. I love that approach because what it does when I do something similar. Actually, for me, it's I don't live on a beach. I live in a place with a walking path. But taking that walk, it's my way of remembering what it felt like the first day. And I imagine you probably do something similar when you do your walks.
Yeah, it clears the gunk out of their head.
It does.
For lack of a better word. Yeah.
Yeah. And drops it on the path where it belongs.
Debbie G, what do you do if you don't have a beach?
But I do.
But she does have a beach.
No, what do I do?
She's the best one to ask it.
Nah, you know what? I'm traveling so much all the time that, and this is really important because really what you're talking about is self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you implement self-care, and how do you recognize that that is necessary in your life, and how do you slow down? And that's what we're talking about, is when we slow down to become more present. Self-care means I'm tired, I'm stretched. If you're feeling a little irritable, whatever, what can you do to step out of that? Breath. Our breath. It's if you can't get to a beach, if you can't get somewhere, we use our breath. It's our life force. It's our chi. So we take a deep breath in, and Neo's got some great breath work that he does.
Mm-hmm.
But we take a deep breath in, and then just say thank you for the breath.
That's
Thank
good.
You. Yeah.
It may sound simple, but if you breathe and you put the oxygen into your body, which is what your cells are seeking, because you are a human being on this planet having an experience that requires breath. First thing you take, last thing you take when you leave. It's vital, super duper important. So is what you're thinking. So as you're breathing, I'm going to encourage at a deep level of what can you be appreciative for. And I'm going to give you guys a simple little one right now. I was in Crestone. We were off the grid. Walt and I had a conversation today about...
I know what's coming.
Look, I appreciate toilets more than I've ever appreciated them in my life. I appreciate running water. Y'all, we don't even think about how that water gets into our homes. Nope. I'm going to tell you something. When you're off grid, it's a different life and it's a different way of being. But the level of appreciation that I walked away from for just the simplicity of that we have a home and whatever. So when we're breathing and you can't find something to appreciate, because right now your life stinks and you don't even know what to say right now because you're all up in your own head and in victim syndrome, which is fine because everybody goes there. Think about the fact that this what is the simplest way for you to have radical appreciation for where you're sitting as you take your breath. Yeah, that's what I mean, that's what I say.
I agree with you. I think you nailed it. I think you're absolutely right. But I got to go to Deborah because she's our special guest today. Do you have something special that you do? And what's your approach to stay on top of that curve that Neo was talking about? Because that is a challenge.
Sure. Yeah. I love to go and just to be in nature. That is definitely my place. I'm so lucky here to be right next to the woods, so I can just grab the dog, Australian dog, grab the dog and go out into nature. And that never fails. And something which I've only come across very recently, which really surprised me that it had never occurred to me before, that really helps me to connect in nature, is to literally try and feel into the heart space, which sort of seemed crazy that it had never occurred to me to do that before, to be perfectly honest, you know. But I'm finding that really, really great at the moment to actually try and see from there and to feel from there. And that really amps up the appreciation, because of course we all know that appreciation is this massive superpower. And doing it from there, I found it quite astonishing how I can even calm down my crazy Australian cattle dog by doing it. That's got to be something in that.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we got a theme going here, but now I got to throw it back to Neil, because Neil, you got to answer your own question. You can't just throw out a challenge like that without actually come up with an answer. So what's your answer? Whoa, you're muted there, guy. You're muted.
My bad. I was over here clicking and stuff trying to post.
That's all right.
Yeah, it begins with waking up. You know, if stuff just keep coming at you, or you're just not conscious enough to wake yourself up more often, that's where it all starts, is just waking up from those average thoughts. And once you pull yourself out of that, the sky's the limit. It's all about where you take it. You know, I like to put my toes in the sand like Victoria. However, I do it at the playground. You know, in my head, it's in the Bahamas, but with my eyes closed, it's at the playground. But that's good. But let's say I can't get to a playground. I'm in a car, or I'm stuck in the office or somewhere in a situation where things just aren't going right and life is just looking like doo-doo. I go back to my oneness, you know, my oneness with God, and how I wouldn't do that to me. And I've been doing all right so far, you know, and I try to carry that as a baseline defense, tie a knot at the end of the rope and hang on type thing. I use all the other mental exercise and everything else I can before that, but as a last resort, when the situation is dire, then that's where I'll go. And I think for me, that's the catch-all. There is no losing outcome, because I wouldn't do that to me. And then that just gives me the confidence to take on the world, and I just go hard from there.
What you're saying sounds a lot like what Julian said in the live stream. He says, "You are the answer."
Yeah, that's it. You know, it's the whole oneness.
Julian, like I want to like hug you right now. That was like really, and because it's true. One of the things that came up recently. I'm going to do a little shifty poo poo if we could.
Okay.
Belief systems, y'all. Okay, this one's been I was talking to Walt today about belief system, and what a crock they are. What an absolute complete crock of poo. I don't know about y'all, but I didn't say it. I
appreciate that, by the way.
I totally, right?
You and I both know what you're talking about, and you didn't go there, and I just got to, I got to commend you for that.
Yeah, so, I get like a brownie button for that. So
absolutely.
You know, one of the things that hit me it's really, really hitting me hard, is the right of every human being to have their own belief system. And to also know that most belief systems, I'm going to say all belief systems are probably just silly, because as perspective shifts, so do our beliefs. And then I started looking at the belief, you know, so I want to encourage now this allowingness and flow. If you say, well, you know, I've always done this is the way I was brought up, and I've always done it this way. If you ever catch yourself saying that, that's a stop and ask yourself, oh, okay, does that still serve me today to do it the way that I've always done it? Or is it possible that I might need to shift how I see things? Our belief system. Now, when you run into people, I'll get time out. I got time out.
No, I was just.
He put me in time out. Y'all see how he did that? He even did it like he was an umpire in the thing. Time out. Go, baby. Tell me.
I'm sorry, because I know I'm going to forget. Always be improving, which means something has to change always. So there is no, should I change? No, be changing every day. Be a better person today than you were yesterday. Something can change. Something can change. And so I just wanted to throw that in there.
Dude, is your belief system the same as it was a year ago?
A year ago?
Yeah.
Nah.
Is it the same as it was 5 minutes ago? Let's put it that way.
Seriously. So y'all know whoever.
No.
So if you're holding on to that, like you for dear life, my belief system, could it be possible that that thing's the very thing that's keeping you from attracting everything that you want in your life?
Yeah.
And also to kind of just put some whipped cream and a cherry on top. Everybody has a right to whatever it is that they are believing.
Yeah.
And I sometimes recently kind of said, well, I wanted to get judgy. That's all I'm going to say. However, I had to get in check with myself. And when I get judgy, I'm going to tell you all right now, I eat it real fast. I had a flat tire within 5 minutes of my judgy. I don't know about you all, but I manifest stuff so quick. I know.
That's a real story, by the way. She's not just making that up as a metaphor. That actually happened.
No, it did.
No.
It totally happened.
Yeah.
It totally happened. Now, the reason, I want to tell you all something about judgment and about belief systems and everything else. Really, what I ask myself is what value is it not meeting in my life? Is it not meeting my value for integrity and respect? Yes. But is how I express that out to another human being needs to be with compassion and love.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need to be I'm right, you're wrong, so you're an idiot, because that's the old way of being. So when I bring up belief and I bring up how that we view our life, whatever that we are holding on to as an anchor, let's say that you are so attached to this belief, and an attachment period is going to keep you constricted. It's attachments are constrictions, unfortunately, at least in my world. So releasing, this is what I'm going to encourage, is releasing the attachment to have that need of that belief, because it's quite possible it's keeping you, again, I'm going to say it, from that law of attraction flow, ebb and flow. That really is what we're all seeking, just that ebb and flow of life. Neo, you brought up, what do you do when you're at that ebb and flow and you're on the other side of the ebb, Well,
what you're talking about is reminding me of the way Abraham teaches what belief is. Because,
tell me.
Well, because they teach you that a belief is a thought that you think over and over again. So literally all of our beliefs that we have they started with thoughts, and we just kept focusing on them continuously until we started to believe them.
And you manifest proof that that's what is real.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God.
So what? But to me, is like there's like good news in there. The good news. I mean, we can look at it one way that that's how we tie ourselves up in belief. But on the other hand, we can say, well, geez, if I can create one belief, I can create a different belief. I can cancel the old belief and create a new belief in its place, and I can do it anytime I want to, just by changing my focus. So that's why I love the Abraham answer on that one. It's like, whoa, let's stop making belief something that traps us and turn it into something that empowers us.
You know what I noticed recently about repetition? I could say anything a bunch of times, and it might sound crazy, like an affirmation, like being a billionaire or whatever. And like the more when you say it, your mind starts to run the scenarios about how it could happen. Well, you could have a rich uncle that dies that you didn't even know about. But the more you say it, you run more scenarios. The scenarios get better and they get more believable. Then you start to believe that you could get it. Maybe I can make this happen. All of a sudden, stuff shifting, people talking, you finding yourself in that direction. So that's like, if you can key in on stuff like that and use it to your advantage in every situation you can. Like for me, if I'm walking down the hallway and I have a negative thought, I just stop. Like I wake myself up and I'm like, what should I be thinking about instead? And then I run that best scenario and for a couple seconds before the ego kicks in and does its thing. But yeah, that's like the key ingredient to making this stuff happen. All that emotion, everything.
So Victoria, I want to go to you now because you're a spiritual teacher and you deal with a lot of the spiritual issues. This is one that's got to come up a lot, dealing with belief, how you handle it, how you overcome the beliefs that aren't serving you anymore. So when you're interacting with somebody, how do you present the idea? How do you address the whole question of belief?
Well, as you're all saying, beliefs are things that we've told ourselves enough times that we actually start to believe what we tell ourselves, and the information that's fed to us from television, from the media, from friends, from church, from school, those all become part of our beliefs. So we come to a point in our lives where we're willing to take responsibility for who we are and where we are, and start to then choose which of our beliefs, as Debbie was saying, actually really do serve us.
Yeah.
And so what happens is that first there's this layer of surface beliefs, and then we start going deeper and deeper and deeper. And at some point you can get to that very core belief. If you can change that core belief, then it unravels everything else. Until you get to the point where you can't remember what it was like to believe that old belief. It's just gone.
Yeah. It's funny how it replaces, isn't it? I mean, it's that thing that was there was almost like this monstrosity that was in the way. Where'd it go? Yeah. It disappeared. Where'd it go?
Yeah. It's like, I can't believe I used to believe that.
That's right. Yeah.
Because it's gone.
Oh, yes.
Well,
Beliefs are amazing.
I love that, Victoria. And I think that I want to encourage everybody to use the tool curiosity. We're all here to, as Deb reminded me, and I said earlier, walk each other home. Guys, I want you to just think about it. You're taking someone else's hand and just envision this. Doesn't matter what their beliefs are.
No,
nothing.
Not at all.
We're all just walking each other home. To be curious with each other. Just to be curious with each other and really
it's a very warm space, what you're describing.
Do you want to know?
No, go ahead.
Wait, just end with always remembering what's real for someone else. As we hold each other's hand and we continue on this journey, we're all sharing all of these things, but the simplicity of it all is really about us. It's about you, Walt, and you, Victoria, and you, Neo, and you, Deborah, and all of you listening and watching. We uncover these different perspectives, each of us having our own, each of us right within our own, because it's from our own reaccountment of life. But we're all sharing it. And the reason is that there is a different way to do this for those out there who are seeking and searching for a new way, a different way to do it. It's important that we help each other through that, where each of us are a guide. Once you've made it through the other side, there is no one greater than or less than. We are all guides. Deborah is now guiding those, and Taya, after already being through, a mentor, stepping into a space where she can now say, yeah, it's possible. You can change your belief system. Yeah, it's possible. Maybe that isn't working for you. Okay, it still is working for you. Okay, I love you anyway, because we're just holding each other's hands. But we're all here for one another. And I think that if we can remember that with compassion, that everything else just sort of unfolds.
And Deborah, by the way, experienced that directly on her Camino. That's literally what she experienced.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
when you were experiencing that particular aspect of what your newfound friends were doing for you, what did that mean for you, Deborah?
I was flabbergasted, because I was still in such a place of a deep sense of lack of worthiness, and it just didn't occur to me. I was, as with many people who are in deep sense of lack of worthiness, a terrible people pleaser. And it never occurred to me that what I would turn myself out inside out to do for other people, that they would do the same for me. So when I saw that being reflected back onto me, and saw that they saw that value and worth as a fellow human, to want to literally reach out and take my hand and walk with me, it was in and of itself, that was transformational, and just started. It was from then on that started that whole process, quite literally, yeah.
And the truth, when you say transformational, you mean within yourself.
Oh, 100, yes, absolutely.
Yes. So talk about, just for a second, what decisions did you make in the midst of that environment to transform yourself?
Well, it started with because the Camino will put in place exactly what you need and not what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And so it started literally with the very people that I was walking with. And two of them were very assertive women. And they said to me, "Why are you always saying sorry?" And oh my God, I really am. I do. And obviously the reason was that sense of, well, I'm not as important enough to take up space. I should be apologizing if I'm late. It didn't matter if other people were late. That didn't matter to me, but I had to be on time. I had to be the one that, and that was like the beginning of when they said that to me. And when I started to reflect on that and to, that just I've started off the whole process of understanding that in fact I was absolutely worthy. It took a while to get all the way there, and it only culminated, and it's like my Camino culminated when I finished the Taya modules. That's when it literally all came together, and now that's when obviously at the end of that you are in a place of absolutely knowing your sense of self-worth, which is what Debbie said, is exactly just being the oneness that we all are. It's nothing to do with me individually, obviously. It's just I am part of that light that's with it and all.
Well, you had a very special version of it. I mean, you had a journey within a journey is what you had, because the Camino itself was a journey, but you also had your internal, you were taking one step at a time, developing your own self-love, developing your own self-appreciation, culminating, like you said, in what happened in the Taya boot camp. And that's really what this whole spiritual journey that we're on is all about. It's that one step at a time. I mean, Neo, you talk about stepping is like a big part of your summits, for goodness sake. That's a huge part of what you talk about. So tell us what your approach is in thinking about and approaching that one step at a time thing.
Well, what's the end result? And I can walk you through one. Give me like an end result.
Oh, you mean like a hypothetical one? Okay. Yeah. Well, let's use the one that Deborah just used. She was trying to achieve a greater sense of self-worth, self-love, self-respect.
Well, first step is always wake up or get present. You know, you got to wake up from whatever thought you were just having or whatever scenario. Once you wake up, if you want to feel great, think about your first paycheck. Give you an example, kind of a mix of what you guys are talking about and what I was talking about earlier. I had one of the biggest days of my life a couple days ago. And today's just a normal day. It's already worn off. And I can go back and get it back pretty well. To put me in a good headspace for the rest of the day and keep thinking about it. But tomorrow's going to be even harder, you know, and those are the moments where if I really, really want to get myself up, I choose something I'm really, really good at, and I either do it or I think about when I was doing it. Like for me, it's kind of sounds silly, but there's this video game that I like.
That's right. Nothing silly about a video game. They're popular these days, so you're okay.
I bought the Oculus. It's a headset. Virtual reality, I bought it so that I can spend more time in different places on the planet, especially in the middle of a stadium packed with thousands of people. That's how you manifest.
Okay, yeah, I'm about that video game right now. Let's do it.
But there's one other game on there, a couple other, because I like gaming, but I'm really good at it. And when I'm winning, I feel great because I love what I'm doing. I know I'm number such and such on the planet, and I'm just the man in that moment. And that's what you need, especially when you're down in the dumps, when you could raise your vibrational frequency, that major gap, and then you'll sit there because you know you're good at it, and you're not going to stop being good at it for a while. And so find that thing that you're great at. I know people say, being a parent, that's cool if you really believe that you're a great parent. But for like, I like to get more specific. Like Madden on the Xbox, awesome. I'm awesome. I'm like ranked 350 in the world, and there's 50,000 people playing right now. And so I can look at that and say, yeah. And then I can run a couple scenarios, a couple wins, and yeah, I'm on cloud freaking 9. Find something like that. Maybe you're a good driver and nobody knows it. You just be swerving in and out of traffic. I don't know. Find that. Use that.
I have to admit, I do the same kind of thing, but I do it with online poker. I just love playing online poker tournaments. The best thing in the world is when you win a tournament where there were like 400 people in the tournament. And you say, how did I get here? Because you'll never win there by wanting it. You'll never win a tournament that way. You have to connect internally and just go with what your internal guidance is. Otherwise, you'll never get there. But it's an amazing feeling.
That mental exercise I call review a highlight. It's one of my big ones. I always keep this index card in my pocket. I'll make a new one when I come up with better ones. But that's a huge one for me. And that was actually the topic of May's Summit. Quick plug, Neo-Positivity's Thoughts Become Things Summit every month. That was the topic of May's Summit, was review your highlights. Review a highlight. I don't care if it's, like I said, graduating high school. If you want to graduate college, remember when you graduated high school, how good it felt. You want to get remarried, remember when you married the first time, how good it felt that day. Don't go anywhere past that day, because obviously it was that good. But that day.
I do coach relationships. I love that. Go ahead, and I heard that, Neo, just saying.
And here's the thing about it. If you want a new spouse, but your old or current spouse is not the ideal, you can go back to the one before that was. Or go back to a time in that relationship where it was right. None of that matters. The face doesn't matter. It's the feeling. Mm-hmm. Someone outside of me gave me that feeling. I was appreciated. I was loved. I was reciprocating. Boom. And then manifest more of that. But you got to spend time there, headspace there, seconds there.
It's a great point. And Victoria, the thing that occurs to me is that we very often forget that, yes, it's great to get that. It's important to get that support from others, but we often forget to use it. And I mean, all that, Debbie, what you were talking about is so important. You have to be there for other people. You have to be of service to other people. But if they're not going to pick up what you're giving them, what good is it? It isn't really helping unless you actually put it to use. So, Victoria, I got to ask you, if you're dealing with somebody who is not really good, kind of like Deborah was talking about, you know, I'm thinking of something Cindy Chavez, who does the Wednesday show, talks about how she used to go out to dinner with a friend, and the friend would say, I got this, and Cindy would say, oh, no, I've got this, picking up the check, because she couldn't allow herself to have somebody else buy lunch for her. She just couldn't let it in. You know, so when you're dealing with that kind of situation, how do you help somebody get past to the point of saying, I deserve this help? I deserve this outreach that somebody's doing for me.
Yeah, you know, one of the things I find interesting is that some people have more of a difficult time receiving than giving.
No kidding. Yeah.
And it's all a self-worth issue. And so when I'm working with a client, we're sitting down and trying to figure out where those self-worth issues come from. Mm-hmm. Because for a lot of people, when they give, they get that good feeling that comes with giving, but there's such a need to justify why they can't receive. And so one of the things that I teach people is that when you deny someone giving you a gift, you're denying them that feeling that they get by giving to you.
Oh yeah.
How selfish is that, to deny someone else the gift of that they get from giving to us? And when we kind of flip the script on that, then people can start to see, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm actually denying the joy that comes with giving by not allowing people to give to me.
Which is ironic, because very often we're asking the universe to deliver stuff of various kinds, and then we're not letting it in. They're like,
well, I love that.
That's a great freaking point.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's also, and I love that. And Wayne Dyer talked about that a lot. Mm-hmm. Neil Donald Walsh talks about that a lot. It's a whole lot. Yeah, you're denying that person the joy of giving, and I love that so much. Dr. Robert Emmons from UC Berkeley, who wrote the book on thanks. If anybody really wants to do a study on appreciation and gratitude, those tools and others are in there to grasp a hold of. But I love that you said that. Now, can I just I'm going to broach another issue here.
Okay.
Sometimes we're giving, but that's because you're in your victimhood and you're being a martyr and codependent.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay. Sometimes you are in receipt because all you're doing is taking. because you haven't learned how to give. So take a look at your own behaviors. And then when we get down, the worthiness and deservingness, all of those things are one thing. The desperate need, our precious human need to be loved. So no matter how that it is unfolding in our life, there's one basic core reason. So if it's, look at all things, all like a diamond has many facets. Look at all the facets of a situation and all the facets. Why am I giving? All the facets. Why am I receiving? Why doesn't that feel good? You have your answer within you. And Victoria was correct, and Deborah was correct, and Neo's correct, and Walt's correct. It's all about your worthiness and deservingness. Now, I think the question was, how do you uncover if you're worthy and deserving?
That's a great question. So, Deborah, you went through the Taya boot camp. Yeah. That was a question you had to answer, I'm sure. How did you answer that for yourself?
Well, do you know what I was thinking, Walt, that just prior to boot camp was the great suggestion of yours of doing the mirror work.
Oh my, good.
Yes. And that was just prior to boot camp. And I remember thinking, because I tried it the once and went to where I love it. Oh no! And just, it was the yuckiest feeling in the world.
It is that first one. Oh,
and then I thought, if this big 6 foot whatever guy can overcome that, then I sure as hell can too.
Well, I had an advantage too because of my height. The mirror was down here. I was up here, so I couldn't really look straight anyway. But yeah, your point's valid.
Yeah. So that was massively helpful. And I have to say, when I did the the Louise Hay mirror work for 21 Day, is actually online free. So I think it's a really great place to start. And I sort of thought, by going through that, I thought, well, I'm upset. I know I love myself, la 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 la. And then when it comes to boot camp, holy!
He calls it boot camp for a reason.
Yes.
You won't get your butt kicked. Oh my God! I love you.
And I always thought that, Abraham, because I was a massive, I still love Abraham, but I was a massive Abraham devotee for years. And I always thought that what they said is that if you start digging, then it's a bottomless pit. Don't go there. Just turn your head away, focus on and don't ever start to go and try and dig in to those who just do not mention them ever again. Don't forget, the guy telling you about Abraham, so I was a little skeptical at first when I heard of the process of the journaling about where those issues came from, because I thought I did all that as a teenager. Really, and wow, just that going back to the root of where that lack of self-worth came from, and actually focusing on that, journaling your socks off, going back, and then why did I feel? And then it's like I think it's Stacey that always says, be like the toddler, like why did I feel that? Why did I? What was? And then you really, really can peel back all the layers of that onion and get to that very first time when, obviously, very typically, your parents will be the ones that told you that you were so hard not to swear, isn't it? That you were a piece of poo. And
the temptation is strong, I know.
Oh, it's horrible. And you really, really can. It's not a bottomless pit. And so you just go back, you find, and you dig it out, and you feel it, and it's raw, and it's rough, and it's not pretty. It's a little snot-filled sob fest but it's only, it has its limit. And then once you really have got to the root of that, and then you go into that radical appreciation, and that's the huge point. It's not just the forgiveness. You understand that I just absolutely, totally get now that I chose those parents to be born to. I absolutely chose that. I chose those circumstances of my birth. I wanted to learn. I wanted to grow. I chose them. We co-created that together. I literally feel that it's not a question of I forgive my stepfather. I am in such appreciation of what we co-created together, and of this wonderful expansion that has come from that. And it's really hard, I think, to actually, when I first heard the process, it's very hard to think that it's not just going to end up in this horrible, massive introspection. And, you know, but you don't, it comes, and then you are, and another thing I was going to say earlier was that when, I think for people that are listening too, that sometimes I think when you do go down your spiral, when you feel down, that's actually perfectly okay.
Yes.
Do not panic. Everything is fine. And what helped me massively to understand with that was the process of vibrational flow, which Abraham doesn't speak of, and which I hadn't come across. And when I heard that, I knew that we are all on this absolutely, we're in a polaric universe, and the vibrational flow is perfectly natural. And so obviously when we're up there, like, you know, you can't imagine ever feeling down there again. And so there's that sense of panic when it does come over you. But then gradually that sense of trust starts to build, and you absolutely know. I think it's like in Abraham, it's step 5, that being, it's a while since I've listened to Abraham now. I think it's the step 5 of the process where you're actually, they don't call it down the spiral, but you're in that state, but you appreciate it.
You're basically going back to step 1. You're running through a cycle there.
But you appreciate when you actually get to a place where you can appreciate feeling like a soft poo. Yes, you can appreciate that because you know that you're somebody turned it down to sea, down the spiral, down to sea. You're down there for a reason to actually, that's where the creating happens. And to actually get there and to be able to be in there without, I mean, first of all, it was all I could do, not, oh, won't panic, nothing is wrong, nothing, and it's like holding onto the table edge, you're like, I know nothing's wrong, really doesn't feel like it, no, nothing is wrong, but you can get to a place where you do, you just, oh, okay, oh, that's interesting, I'll appreciate this too, and then of course, that in and of itself gets you to raise your vibration, but it's, I think I came a long way from what the original question was. Now I can't remember.
That's all right, though. That was a great little journey you took there. I think it was wonderful. I wanted to throw in one other thing that Shelly, who's in the live stream, she's also returned to the show as a Tuesday co-host. So I wanted to put that little plug in there too. But she points out, I think you should dig to figure out what to change, but don't live in the reliving of it all. Use it as a tool, which I think is a great point. It's the way you approach it with balance. The whole thing, it becomes a balanced approach. It's not, am I giving too much? Am I receiving too much? Am I believing too much? It's, you just go into it. If you have something you have to dig out, you dig it out, but you just don't keep replaying it over your head. You don't keep reliving it. You don't keep miring in it. You just go through it and let it go.
Well, once you reach sorry, once you reach that place of appreciation for it, you don't need to go there again.
And you don't need to anymore after a while.
Yeah. So you don't need to.
I love this, you guys, because really what you're saying is long, I think we talked about it, as long as you're attached to the old story, as long as you're attached to, well, I was brought up this way, my parents did this, and as long as you're telling that story, you're still in your victim. You're still, you relive it every time you speak it. So I'm just curious of, how do we break that by becoming appreciative? We don't have to relive it.
Well, I think we're gonna have to save that topic for next week because we actually, as usual, we've just run out of time. I mean, this hour just flies, and this is something you have to kind of get used to on this show. It just goes away really, really fast. So, so we're going to stop right there. First of all, Deborah Wilson, thank you very much for coming on the show, sharing your story, and that story rocks. That story is absolutely fabulous. So really appreciate you coming on to tell that. I want to inspire other listeners in case they've ever thought about coming on, see what happens if it actually works. It works out really, really well. So Victoria, thank you for joining us. I mean, this has been kind of crazy with 5 people. We'll get to know you more next show, but you kind of went into the deep end today. So I hope you didn't drown. It was good though.
Okay.
All right. Debbie and Neil, great to have you back. Debbie, especially because you've been on the road so much, but I know you're going to be in and out. We're looking forward to what's going on there, and Neil, next time you're gonna have to tell us a little bit more about what's going on with the next summit. But we have to draw a line right there because you have to draw a line somewhere. So thank you to all of our live streamers. Thank you especially to our podcast listeners everywhere, and we'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks,